You're 38. You're exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. You're snapping at your partner, your kids, your coworkers, and then lying awake at night feeling guilty about it. Your heart races for no reason. You feel a sense of dread you can't explain. You cry in the car on the way to work and you don't even know why. You finally go to your doctor. You tell them everything. They listen, they nod, they run some tests. A few days later, the results come back. Everything is normal. And they slide a prescription for antidepressants across the desk and tell you to try therapy. You walk out of that office feeling like you failed some kind of test, like the problem is you, like you're just not coping well with life. But what if the problem wasn't you at all? What if nearly 40% of women in your exact situation, women who went to their doctor with those exact symptoms, were given the completely wrong diagnosis? Because that's exactly what a major 2025 survey of over 1,000 women found. And today, we're going to talk about why that's happening, what's actually going on in your body, and what you can do about it. Let's start at the beginning, because most women are never properly taught what perimenopause actually is. Most of us grow up thinking menopause is something that happens in your early 50s. Your period stops, you get hot flashes, and that's it. Perimenopause, the transition leading up to menopause, is something almost nobody talks about, and that silence is costing women years of their lives. Here's the reality. Perimenopause can begin as early as your mid-30s. The average woman starts experiencing perimenopausal changes somewhere between 35 and 45 years old. And it doesn't last a few months. It can last anywhere from 7 to 10 years. 10 years. A full decade of hormonal transition that most women have never been told is coming. And here's the part that confuses everyone, including a lot of doctors. Your period can be completely regular during perimenopause. You can have a 28-day cycle, month after month, and still be in full perimenopausal hormonal chaos. Because perimenopause isn't defined by what your period does, it's defined by what your hormones are doing. And what your hormones are doing is not a smooth, gradual decline. It's not like a dimmer switch slowly turning down. It's more like someone is randomly flipping the switch on and off, sometimes multiple times a day. Your estrogen levels can spike higher than they've ever been in the morning and crash by afternoon. They can be completely different on Tuesday than they were on Saturday. That erratic swinging, not the decline but the instability, is what drives the symptoms. And it's exactly why those symptoms look so much like something else entirely. Now here's the piece of information that changes everything. The piece that most women, and honestly most doctors, have never been taught. Estrogen is not just a reproductive hormone. It is a brain hormone. Estrogen directly regulates serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. If those words sound familiar, they should. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter that antidepressants like SSRIs target. Dopamine is involved in motivation, focus, and pleasure. GABA is the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter, the one that benzodiazepines work on. Estrogen doesn't just influence these systems, it actively modulates them. It affects how much of these neurotransmitters your brain produces, how sensitive your receptors are to them, and how efficiently your brain uses them. So when your estrogen starts swinging wildly and unpredictably, which is exactly what happens in perimenopause, your entire neurotransmitter system becomes unstable. Your brain's ability to regulate mood, anxiety, focus, and sleep is directly compromised. Not because something is wrong with your mind, but because the hormonal infrastructure that supports your brain function is fluctuating in ways it never has before. Think about what that looks like from the outside. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral. You wake up at 3 a.m. with a feeling of dread you can't attach to anything specific. You feel waves of panic in situations that never bothered you before. You feel irritable, on edge, reactive. You feel like you've become a different person, someone you don't recognize and don't particularly like. Take those symptoms to a doctor who isn't thinking about hormones, and what do they see? Anxiety, possibly depression, a patient who needs mental health support. And they're not wrong that you need support. They're wrong about why. Let's talk about the specific symptoms that get misread most often, because understanding this list might be the most validating thing you hear today. Racing heart and palpitations. This is one of the most common perimenopausal symptoms and one of the most frequently misdiagnosed. When estrogen fluctuates, it affects the autonomic nervous system, the system that regulates your heart rate. Women in perimenopause often experience sudden episodes of their heart pounding or fluttering, sometimes for no apparent reason, sometimes in the middle of the night. They go to the doctor. The EKG is normal, the thyroid test is normal, and the conclusion is anxiety. Insomnia and disrupted sleep. Progesterone, the other key hormone in this transition, has a natural sedative effect. As progesterone levels decline in perimenopause, many women lose their ability to fall asleep easily, stay asleep, or reach deep restorative sleep. They wake between 2 and 4 a.m., often with their mind racing, and cannot get back to sleep. Chronic sleep deprivation then amplifies every other symptom: mood instability, brain fog, anxiety, weight gain, creating a cascade that looks, on the surface, like a mental health crisis. Rage and irritability. This one is particularly under-discussed. Women in perimenopause often describe a completely new kind of anger: fast, intense, disproportionate, and deeply unsettling to them. It's not sadness, it's not anxiety, it's rage. And it tends to appear suddenly, in women who have never struggled with anger before, which makes it feel especially alarming and shameful. The connection between estrogen fluctuation and emotional dysregulation is well documented, but rarely explained to patients. Brain fog and cognitive changes. Difficulty concentrating, forgetting words mid-sentence, walking into a room and having no idea why, an inability to hold complex thoughts the way you used to. For women in demanding careers, this can be terrifying. Some women are referred for early cognitive decline screening. Most of the time, the cause is hormonal, and it's reversible. Anxiety and doom. A pervasive sense that something bad is about to happen. Catastrophic thinking. Worrying about things you've never worried about before. New phobias. Social withdrawal. These are classic presentations of perimenopausal anxiety, and they are indistinguishable, symptom by symptom, from generalized anxiety disorder. So why do doctors keep missing this? Why, in 2025, with everything we know about hormones and brain chemistry, are nearly 40% of women still walking out of their doctor's office with the wrong diagnosis? There are 3 structural reasons, and understanding them isn't about blaming your doctor. It's about understanding the system so you can navigate it better. The first reason is that there is no definitive diagnostic test for perimenopause. This is genuinely complicated, and it's not the doctor's fault. It's a biological reality that makes diagnosis difficult. The hormones doctors typically check are FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, and estradiol. But here's the problem. In perimenopause, both of these fluctuate dramatically from day to day, and sometimes hour to hour. A blood draw on a Tuesday morning can look completely normal. The same woman's hormones on Thursday afternoon could look completely different. A single normal test result does not mean your hormones are fine. It means your hormones were within a normal range at that specific moment in time. This is why the North American Menopause Society actually recommends that perimenopause be diagnosed clinically, based on symptoms, age, and history, rather than relying primarily on lab values. But that requires a doctor who knows to look for it. The second reason is a significant gap in medical education. Studies have shown that most medical schools devote very few hours, sometimes fewer than 2, to menopause education across an entire medical degree. General practitioners and even many OB/GYNs graduate without a deep understanding of the perimenopausal transition, its timeline, its symptom profile, or its impact on mental health. This is not a criticism of individual doctors. It is a documented, systemic failure in how we train physicians to care for women in midlife. The third reason is age bias, and this one is the most personal. The phrase most commonly reported by women in their late 30s and early 40s who seek answers is, "You're too young for that," said with confidence, said by someone in a white coat. And so the woman leaves, doubting herself, wondering if she's being dramatic, convinced that if the doctor isn't worried, maybe she shouldn't be either. Here's the truth. Perimenopause commonly begins between 35 and 45. 1 in 10 women enters perimenopause before the age of 40. Too young is not a diagnosis. It's an assumption, and it's one that is actively harming women. And there's one final layer to this that makes the problem even harder to see. SSRIs, the antidepressants most commonly prescribed in these situations, can actually reduce some perimenopausal symptoms. Hot flashes, in particular, respond to SSRIs in some women. So a woman starts an antidepressant, notices she feels slightly better in some areas, and assumes the diagnosis was correct. The hormonal cause stays hidden. The root of the problem goes untreated, and sometimes that continues for years. So what do you actually do with this information? First, start tracking. Before your next doctor's appointment, give yourself 2 full cycles of data. Every day, note your mood, your energy, your sleep quality, and any physical symptoms. Importantly, note where you are in your cycle. Many women discover that their worst days fall consistently in the 2 weeks after ovulation, the luteal phase. That pattern is one of the clearest signals that hormones are involved. Use an app if that's easier. Balance Menopause and Clue are both good options. Or use a simple notes app. What matters is consistency. 2 months of daily notes gives you and your doctor something real to look at instead of a verbal description of how you've been feeling lately. Second, ask for a more complete hormonal evaluation. Don't just ask for FSH. Ask for estradiol, progesterone, testosterone total, and SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin. Ask whether the timing of the draw within your cycle matters for interpretation. A clinician familiar with perimenopausal care will know how to use that information. And if your doctor dismisses this request, that is important information too. Third, find a provider who specializes in this. The Menopause Society maintains a directory of certified menopause practitioners, clinicians who have received specific training and passed an exam in this area. Searching that directory for a provider near you, or one who offers telehealth, is one of the most practical steps you can take. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. You are not falling apart. You are not too anxious, too sensitive, or too dramatic. You are not bad at coping with stress. You are not becoming someone you don't recognize because something is fundamentally wrong with you. You are going through a real biological transition that affects your brain chemistry, your nervous system, your sleep, your mood, and your sense of self. And you deserve an explanation, not a prescription handed over without one. The first step is knowing what questions to ask. And now you do. In the next video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to have that conversation with your doctor, what to say, how to respond when you're dismissed, and what your real options are, both hormonal and non-hormonal. Because being told everything is normal when you know something is wrong is not the end of the conversation. It's the beginning of a better one.